In the realm of scientific discourse, it's crucial to distinguish between genuine debunking and merely offering a different opinion. Debunking relies on empirical evidence to refute claims, whereas a difference of opinion may lack the support of data or logical reasoning. In the debate over intelligent design, ID, versus evolution, this distinction becomes particularly important. Critics often claim that ID has been debunked through evolutionary mechanisms such as gradual modifications, co-option, and exaptation. But these claims often lack the detailed evidence necessary to substantiate them. This essay will examine the fallacies in these arguments, highlight the strength of ID as an empirical framework, and address common misconceptions surrounding irreducible complexity, the PAX6 gene, and the errors of evolutionary double speech. In this rebuttal, it is important to distinguish between genuine debunking and offering a different opinion. Debunking is rooted in empirical evidence and sound reasoning, while a difference of opinion may not require the same level of factual support. Addressing someone's spelling errors or minor logical inconsistencies is not sufficient to debunk a position. It's simply avoiding the heart of the matter. What truly constitutes debunking is the presentation of clear, well-supported evidence that undermines the core argument of a claim. The argument against intelligent design, ID, often misrepresents its premises by conflating it with simplistic creationism. ID focuses on the empirical evidence for design in nature, particularly through the concept of irreducible complexity. While some claim this concept has been debunked by evolutionary biology, it is often based on an incomplete understanding of how complex systems, such as the eye, could arise incrementally through purely natural processes. Critics of ID argue that evolution through gradual modifications, co-option, and exaptation are well documented and observable. However, these explanations often fall short of providing the detailed, step-by-step processes required to demonstrate how irreducibly complex systems, like the bacterial flagellum or the eye, could evolve without guided intervention. Simply asserting that these mechanisms exist does not provide the empirical data needed to substantiate the claim that complex systems evolved solely by these means. Take the case of the PAX6 gene, which is responsible for eye development across various species. Evolutionary proponents claim that its presence across species is evidence of a shared evolutionary origin, yet they fail to account for how a gene associated with such a complex structure could have been co-opted and repurposed without an intelligent guiding force. To claim that a mindless gene repurposed itself for progressively complex functions stretches the bounds of logic. How can something without intention or purpose give rise to purpose-driven systems? ID, on the other hand, posits that such shared genetic pathways reflect a common design principle, much like how engineers use standardized components across different machines. This argument is not merely speculative, it is grounded in the observation that similar genetic codes across species often lead to similar, highly functional outcomes. This is not a random or purposeless process, but one that is highly organized and intentional, pointing to design. As for the Kitzmiller versus Dover case, while it is true that court rulings do not establish scientific facts, the ruling relied on expert testimony that reflected the prevailing view in the scientific community. However, consensus does not equal fact, and the court's rejection of ID as a scientific theory reflects a misunderstanding of what ID proposes. The court concluded that ID was simply a rebranding of creationism, but this ignores the fact that ID does not attempt to invoke any specific religious text or deity. Instead, it focuses on the empirical evidence for design in biological systems. In criticizing models like Nielsen and Pelger's work on eye evolution, it's important to recognize that scientific models are only as good as the data that supports them. Their model proposed a theoretical pathway for eye evolution, but did not account for the countless variables and complexities involved in such a process. Suggesting that these models provide an empirical basis for the stepwise evolution of complex systems is disingenuous. Scientific models must be evaluated based on their ability to match observable data, not on their ability to theoretically explain every aspect of a system. Finally, the argument that evolutionary biology violates intuition because it rejects teleological explanations is worth examining. Proponents of evolution often dismiss teleological, goal-directed thinking, arguing that natural processes are inherently purposeless. Yet even children intuitively understand that events seem to happen for reasons, a point raised by Kellerman and Rossett, 2009. Dismissing such intuitions, especially when it comes to complex biological systems, leads to flawed premises. Teleological reasoning aligns with what ID suggests, that there is purpose behind the complexity we observe in nature. Evolutionary doublespeak, where purposeless processes are somehow described as achieving goals or making choices, only leads to confusion and flawed scientific outcomes. Evolutionists often fail to meet their own burden of proof, relying instead on speculative claims without providing step-by-step empirical evidence. Intelligent design, on the other hand, offers a coherent framework grounded in observable data and common-sense reasoning, showing that purpose and design are inherent in life's complexity. Without empirical evidence, any argument claiming otherwise remains mere speculation. In closing, the debate between intelligent design and evolution reveals a stark contrast between what is backed by empirical evidence and what relies on speculative assertions. Evolutionists often assert that natural processes alone can account for the complexity of life, yet they struggle to provide the detailed, step-by-step empirical data necessary to support these claims. Intelligent design, by contrast, presents a coherent and purposeful framework that aligns with the observable evidence in biology. As we move forward in this discussion, it is essential to recognize that merely presenting alternative interpretations without solid evidence does not debunk an argument. It only highlights the need for a deeper, more thoughtful exploration of the facts.